And welcome back here on IceTime.TV, and I'm delighted to be joined by Dr. Victoria Silverwood, who is one of the most learned person in the whole of the ice hockey world.
I'm not sure about that.
Having done a PhD in criminology and ice hockey, can you give us the full title of your work?
My thesis is called Five for Fighting, the Culture and Practice of Violence in Professional Ice Hockey.
Go. And you've been in Toronto recently because you were involved in the production of Ice Guardians, the upcoming documentary about the tough guy in ice hockey. Can you give us a bit of synopsis about the film, and then we'll give a quick recap about what you've contributed?
Yeah. Well, as I spoke to you last time before I'd seen the film, I'm involved in the film. They really wanted to find not only the players' accounts of violence in the sport, but also the sort of official account of it as well. So they interviewed Charles Tater, who's a famous concussion specialist, Howard Bloom, who's a human behaviourist, and also myself as a criminologist, which was amazing to be invited to join in, and so a really, really great experience.
So you were in Toronto for the premiere recently. Can you tell us a bit about that experience? Who did you meet? What did you do? I believe you did a Q&A as well while you were out there.
Yeah, it was phenomenal, really. The premiere was on Monday at the Royal Theatre, and Toronto Film Festival was on. So it was quite a big week of lots of things going on. There's plenty of press around there as well. So we had the premiere, which went on Sportsnet as well, with I think 9 or 10 enforcers, I can't remember exactly who it is, who appear in the film. So Todd Fedoruk, Brian McGrattan, Kelly Chase, quite a few of the sort of big names that people at home would probably know about from either current players, including Luke Gazdick, or sort of slightly older players who've now retired. And there's a Q&A after the film, which was really interesting to hear what the players thought of the film, actually. Because it must have been quite an awkward thing for them not to know the direction that they were going to take with it, but they seemed to love it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what was the general reaction from the guys that saw it, that were in the room? Positive? Were there any questions asked? What was the general feeling across the evening?
Universally positive, which was really, really nice to see. Yeah, it was fantastic, really. They said that they felt that it was true to form. You know, they kind of were fairly represented, which is obviously like what the director wanted to do with the edit of the film, to make sure that that was a sort of fair account of what they were doing. They enjoyed it. They thought it was nice to be able to get their opinion out, and rather than a way of kind of either glorifying or vilifying their role, it was just a fair account of their role over time.
Excellent. So how do you think this film is going to open doors in terms of your research now? With it's going to be more widespread, people are going to know more about yourself, about what you've been doing. How do you envisage this helping your work going forward?
Well, absolutely. It started with, when I spoke to you, I wasn't, now I'm in Birmingham. So I'm working for Birmingham City University as a criminology lecturer. And they've been really supportive of the sort of the media role. So they kind of funded my trip out there and made good contacts with the media, but also just through the film, the contacts I made with the NHL, with players. Kevin Westgarth is now working for the NHL, and I'd really like to work with him on something in the future on when players retire, concussions, and also sort of addiction and things with sportsmen. And generally speaking to a few other people who are involved as well. I'm writing a book with Brett Harvey, who's the director of Ice Guardians. And from that, we'll be able to speak to even more people because they now know who I am and what I'm doing, which has really opened doors. So the players have been absolutely wonderful. I wasn't sure what they thought of someone who clearly doesn't play hockey coming in and giving their opinion, but they've been really supportive.
Excellent, and I understand there's the UK premiere upcoming on the 22nd of September, is that correct?
Yeah, this Thursday in the View Cinema in Piccadilly. It's part of the Raindance Film Festival, and it features a Q&A with myself, one of the officials from Cardiff, Nathan Ormond, the director, Brett Harvey, and a couple of Devils players will be coming along as well to be involved with that.
Wow. So, where can we see this film in the UK? Is it going to get a small theatrical release before going to DVD?
Yes, we're currently working on a theatrical release with a distributor in the UK. My first priority is to get it to Cardiff. But we've also had requests from Sheffield, Nottingham, Belfast, sort of the big hockey towns. But Cardiff will definitely be the first place. That's why I'll use my pull in one direction. It'll be to show it in Cardiff first.
Well, you know, if you need someone to host a Q&A, you know, John Donovan is readily available. You know, we don't mind hosting IceTime.TV. We got your back and I think no problem.
Excellent, that's what we need.
So Vic, what have you learned from your work since working on this film? What has come to light since we talked to you last year? What new developments can you fill us in on what you've been working on?
What's really come along is how willing people are to work with me on things. So obviously a PhD is quite a solitary experience. It has to be. It has to be my own brain work. But it's wonderful now to have people say, I'm really interested in it. I want to be involved. I want to help you out. I want to publicise things. You know, so to me, the connections. A couple of people I really respect have reached out on Twitter and sent me messages saying how they enjoyed the film when it was shown on Monday, and they'd like to be involved with things. So potentially could have opened an awful lot of doors, which is great.
Excellent. And I know we discussed in the past maybe, you know, the evolution of the Elite League Department of Player Safety. We were just chatting in the break beforehand, the first period break, about how there's been no reviews thus far, and whether that comes down to more deterrence in the league, and whether four-line hockey makes a difference in regards to that. In terms of the Department of Player Safety, though, what would you like to see them do a little bit differently? They haven't really had much to do so far this year, but how do you think, what ideas would you bring to the table if you were involved?
Well, I understand that they've got a completely new Department of Player Safety this year. So I don't know exactly who's on it, but it would be nice to know who was on it. It would be nice for fans, I think, to have faith in the Department of Player Safety actually in terms of safeguarding the players, because any team is invested in the players that they've got. So we need to know what they're responsible for, what they do, but also to hear their reasons for giving the penalties they do and giving the punishments that they do. In terms of the league as a whole, I think it's going to be quite an interesting season, because we certainly seem to be signing more out-and-out tough guys around the league. There's obviously Bordeaux, Rosehill, but also McGrattan arriving next week for Nottingham. So it'll be interesting to see how we adapt to the way things are changed in North America. With the AHL reducing the number of tough guys they have, it's going to be interesting how many more want to come to the UK. So
you said you spoke to Brian McGrattan last week. I assume you talked to him about the Elite League and that some of his friends were already here to greet him. Is he excited about coming to Nottingham? What was his general sort of opinion of what he's got coming in store for him?
Yeah, well, Gratz is a great guy. I was really impressed with him. It was really nice to meet him. He was really interested in the UK. He's got a 2-year deal with the Panthers, so he'll be here for the next sort of 2 full seasons.
I've got a feeling that's an exclusive. You never know what you're going to get on IceTime.TV.
So he's here for 2 seasons. He's really keen to get involved. I talked to him a lot about what it's like on the ice and off the ice in the Elite League, and he's looking forward to coming over and getting involved.
Were you kind?
I was very kind, and I also informed him to be very careful when he plays Cardiff, because he'd have me to deal with.
Well, I'm sure it'll be great when he does arrive here. He'll be here in a couple of weeks. I'm sure as you've called him Gratz, I'm assuming you're on first name terms with him now, as you are with all the guys that were.
Well, with hockey nicknames, you have to kind of get used to the way they talk to each other.
Vic, just in closing, just give us an update on your book, when you're envisaging that coming out. Any last words on Ice Guardians? Where we can see it. Anything you like. The floor is yours.
Okay, so the book comes out soon, I hope. It's taking a little bit longer now. I have a full-time job, but it will be out very soon, and I'm ideally trying to get the hockey fan book out first. So the what I'm writing with Brett Harvey, who's the director of Ice Guardians, we're working on that one at the moment, trying to get that one out. And then I have another one, which is the academic sort of version of my PhD in a book form. Ice Guardians is premiering in the UK. If any of you are near London, you can see it on the 22nd and the 27th of September, featuring Q&As as well afterwards. And then we're working on a theatrical release. Eventually, you'll be able to get it on DVD, Blu-ray, and Vimeo.
There we go. Vic, thank you ever so much for joining us. I noticed you don't have an Ice Guardians cap this time that we could,
I was wearing the hoodie earlier. It's a bit warm up here, though.
But, if you do have any presents, I'm sure, we get cold up here on the gantry. We'll accept everything. But, Vic, thank you ever so much for joining us. I'm sure we'll do more with you on IceTime.TV outside of the game. We'll have a bit more time. We'll get some projects going, because I think that the work you're doing is just so fantastic, so beneficial to ice hockey as a whole, and I think we need to go a bit more in depth with it and do a few more interesting programs. So
that'd be great.
Yeah, please, we'll get working on that. So me and Vic will just go and sign the contracts to get exclusivity to her work for IceTime.TV, and we'll be back shortly with highlights from the second period. So don't go anywhere. IceTime.TV will be back. Highlights of the second period, and thank you once again, Vic, for joining us.
Thank you.